What I'm here to tell you is so powerful is you can do that same thing of looking back and connecting the dots and stand in this moment. No matter how difficult your life is, no matter how the circumstances are, no matter how much regret you have, you can stand in this moment and you can teach yourself how to look forward from this moment and say, this moment is a dot in the map of my life and it is preparing me for something amazing that's coming.
I gotta know your superhero origin story. I know you're from the Midwest like me.
Yeah.
But you having a career, you decide I'm gonna go to law school and make that a career and then becoming one of the top.
Okay, well, hold on a second. You're giving me too much credit already.
Okay.
Way too much credit already. I did not know what to do with my life when I graduated from college. Yeah. So I did what a lot of us do. I followed the person I was dating, like a little puppy. And I moved to DC. And the first, I couldn't find a job. So I went to a temp agency and they stuck me in a law firm working as paralegal. And I hated that job. But then the pressure of watching other people figure their lives out by, the people around me as other paralegals started applying to law school. The guy I was dating at the time started applying to graduate school. And I thought, I'm going to get left behind. Yeah. I guess I better apply to law school because I don't know what else to do. And that's how I ended up being a lawyer. And once I got to law school, I hated it. But here's the thing about, I think, what's really difficult in life is that you can find yourself jumping into something because you don't know what else to do. And then it's like falling into the Colorado River and the current just takes you in a direction and it becomes very hard to try to swim to shore and to get out of the current that you're in because everybody else seems to be moving in this direction. It's an act of defiance to go, I actually don't like this, but I'm going to get to shore. The funny thing is, though, is that I went to law school. I kept saying, I'll use this for something else. I'll use this for something else. And I ended up the last year finding mock trial. And my first job out of law school is a job that I would still be doing if I had not met my husband and he got an opportunity in Boston. My first job out of law school, a lot of people don't know this, is I was a criminal defense attorney for legal aid in New York.
That sounds like an intense environment.
I was a public defender. And so if you think about what you do for a living and what I do for a living in terms of sharing wisdom, tools, advice, experiences that help people change their lives for the better, when you're a public defender, you are meeting people in crisis. Yeah. And the most interesting aspect about that job is that the person that I was representing didn't pick me. They got stuck with me. And so that job was a master class in building relationships with somebody like that.
That's powerful. And this is one of the things that you teach. And even bringing this up with me is that these things are leading you to something else.
Yes.
But there's so many similarities and it's freaking me out. I went to school pre-med, not because, and I hated it. And it was because I thought I should do it.
Yeah.
I didn't have any real examples in my environment. I got it from television, watching the Cosby Show. It's like, oh, they look happy. Doctor and a lawyer. Yeah. I'll be a doctor. And I detested it. But it led me to where I am today. So. Oh,
okay. Let me stop. Okay, because we're gonna keep spinning on.
And I got out of it. I went in a completely different direction. I was like, well, I'll just do business.
No, you
school.
Didn't.
Right, and it brought me back. It brought me back, and it's a thread here.
So I want to kind of unpack this because this is a really important piece of advice that we're both talking about. Now, the way that I talk about this is I call this a high five attitude. It's grounded in optimism and faith. Sitting right here, you can look back. And you can see medical school as a dot on the map of your life leading you to this moment. I can see law school as a dot on the map of my life leading me to this moment. I now advocate for real people to break through the bullshit holding them back, to find the power within, to take control of their lives. You do the same thing with people's health. What I'm here to tell you is so powerful is you can do that same thing of looking back and connecting the dots and stand in this moment. No matter how difficult your life is, no matter how the circumstances are, no matter how much regret you have, you can stand in this moment And you can teach yourself how to look forward from this moment and say, this moment is a dot in the map of my life, and it is preparing me for something amazing that's coming. And when you can stand in that moment, you can face absolutely anything that is happening in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's getting ourselves to that place where we do the thing. And where I first was introduced to you was via your TED Talk, which is one of the most epic TED Talks of all time. The vibes are amazing. We'll put it for everybody in the show notes that hasn't seen it. When you jumped off stage in heels as well, by the way. Don't think I didn't notice that. But you mentioned that a lot of times we're just going through the motions and we're living by this dirty F word.
Yes.
Right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
The F word's fine. Fine. I'm fine. And actually, no, you're not. You're unhappy in your life. You're beating yourself up every day when you look in the mirror. You're living with regrets. You're talking yourself out of what you want. Fine is the F word, because when you settle, when you say that you're fine, whether it's in the area of health or sleep or whatever, or whether it's about you holding yourself back, you continuing to date losers, you telling yourself you're not good enough, settling for fine is basically a death sentence, in my opinion. I want to tell you a funny story about that TED Talk, though.
Right.
Because I think one of the big things that holds people back from going after what they want is they sit and they watch your show and they're like, oh man, I'm never going to be that successful. Oh, that's so fancy. Oh, look at how many followers he has. Or they look at my TED Talk and they're like, 27 million views? Holy smokes. Let me tell you the backstory in that. Because things are not how they appear. So in 2011, I had liens on my house to the tune of $800,000. I was 3 years into using something that I created called the 5-second rule, something I invented during the worst moment of my life when my husband's restaurants were failing. I was unemployed, 41 years old with 3 kids under the age of 10. And my anxiety about our financial crisis was so bad, it would pin me to the bed. I could not get out of bed. I invent the 5-second rule, drunk one night on bourbon, as an idea to launch myself out of bed like a rocket ship so that I would not be in the bed when the anxiety, the overwhelm, the fear pinned me there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's basically the 5-second rule. You got an idea, you got to move. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The thing works. It is instant motivation, instant courage. It has tremendous amount of science, moving you from the subconscious part of the brain and activating the prefrontal cortex to give you immediate control over what you think and do next. I used this sucker in secret for 3 years and turned my life around. But we're still $800,000 in debt. We are still struggling to make the ends meet. I am nowhere by any means out of the gate in terms of the problems in my life. I'm still not out of the gate, by the way. That tends to be how I learn. I f*** up my life and then I have to figure out how to fix it. That's Mel Robbins' way of motivation.
And helping others along the way.
Yes, correct. And so it's 2011 and TEDx is not a thing, okay? Yeah. Let's be honest. TEDx started then.
Yeah.
And my college roommate's friend was putting on the first TEDx. And they were looking for somebody who had changed their jobs a million times to talk about career change. So my college roommate's like, oh, you got to call Mel. She's like crazy. She's like a butterfly that darts from public defender to corporate litigation to the digital ad business to this, to that, to the other thing. And so they call me and they are offering 2 plane tickets to San Francisco and to put us up at the St. Regis. And I look at my husband, I'm like, free vacation, babe, let's go. Now, I had never given a speech in my entire life. I get that I was a public defender, but it's very different to stand in a courtroom and talk to a judge and a court officer and 12, citizens in a jury than to stand in an auditorium on a stage and talk to 800 people. And back then, they didn't really prepare people. They kind of did a little rehearsal. You got 20 minutes. So what you're seeing in that 20-minute long or that 21-minute long TEDx talk is Mel Robbins having an anxiety attack for 21 minutes. If you look closely, there is a neck rash all over my chest that comes on at minute 1. I jumped off that stage like completely disassociated, not knowing what the hell I was going to do. I then get back on that stage. I'm like, my heart's like this, which is why I'm darting all over the place. I am so disassociated that at minute 19, I go, and I forget how to end the speech. The speech was not about the 5-second rule. I didn't even know why the 5-second rule worked. So I was not going to get on a stage and tell a bunch of strangers, if you count backwards from 5, it'll change your life. That sounds ridiculous. And so I literally forget how to end the speech and I go, oh, by the way, there's this thing I do. I call it the 5-second rule. The moment you have an instinct to do something, you got to move within 5 seconds. Thank you very much. I think I even gave up my email address on that stage. And then I leave. A year goes by. They put it online. I don't even know.
Unbelievable.
Another year goes by. And now it's racked up 1 million views. And somebody starts messaging me on Facebook going, would you come talk to this thing? And I'm like, oh, were you in San Francisco? They're like, no, I saw it online. I'm like, online? And that's how it all began. Is that not crazy?
This is blowing my freaking mind. So this was something totally new for you. I was just like, oh, she's a seasoned veteran.
Hell no. I literally did not say, I did not wake up one day and be like, I am going to become the most booked motivational speaker for women in the world. I am going to set out and write books. And I got into personal development kicking and screaming. I think God, the universe, somebody else had a much bigger plan and said, it is time for the world to know about the 5-second rule. And this crazy lady over here is going to be the messenger for this thing. Because I do not believe it is mine. I believe it is a gift to the world, because when you count backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you interrupt subconscious programming in your mind that is holding you back, and you open up your prefrontal cortex, giving you immediate control over what you think and do next. Do you know there are more than 111 people who have stopped themselves from committing suicide because of the 5-second rule? Veterans organizations are using it to reprogram triggers associated with PTSD. Pediatricians use it to help kids interrupt the thoughts and the nervous system responses that cause you to spiral in anxiety. And I'm so proud of it because it's free, it's sticky, it's easy to remember, and it works every time you use it. And I'm so passionate about it because this high 5 habit thing is the exact same kind of thing. It sounds so stupid. It is so simple, and it works the first time you use it, and the science is like bananas.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Listen, to see, I literally just watched it again yesterday, and I remember that part where you're just like, oh, by the way.
Yes.
Now to hear this, it's just like, thank you so much for sharing this.
Of course.
People seeing it, we tend to, especially today, we tend to see the things in a superficial way. We don't know what goes into it. And to know that you basically powered yourself through that moment and all the doors that it eventually opened, that's just phenomenal. And I got to say this. So this was 2011?
Yeah, 10 years ago.
So I did a TED Talk in 2011 as
awesome.
well. Same weird coincidence. It's freaking me out more.
Yeah.
And from that moment, that was when the Model Health Show, this show that you're on right now, that was the first seed, was me going to that event and speaking at that event. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here with you right now.
Amazing. So we are so aligned. I'm going to say something else. I'm going to go right on the record. You are going to point back to this interview with Mel Robbins today, you and I talking, in the future, and go, that was the moment that something massive pivoted and it led to this major thing that you're doing now. I profoundly believe that because of the number of intersections that you and I have. And it is so important that you be open to that kind of sign seeing and to claim it and say, this is evidence that something incredible is happening, and believe it, because that is what will pull you through your fears and your doubt to lean into something new.
Yeah. Being a scientist, that evidence, I have to mansplain it a little bit to myself, but this goes back to simple principles that you actually talk about in this new book,
yes.
like what's happening with your reticular activating system.
Yes,
Let's
yes.
talk about that a little bit.
All right. Well, one of the things that you and I also share, by the way, is a Albert Einstein quote that we both love, which is, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it.
Yes.
Yes.
I live by that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, first, let me talk about how I discovered this high 5 habit thing, and then let's get to the reticular activity system, which I like to call the hairnet on your brain. Visual, right? Do you not now have a visual? The live network,
yes, I'm a very visual person. I
electrical
see it.
hairnet on your brain.
So, I was thinking more of like a lunch lady, but
a lunch lady. Yeah. Sure, we'll take the lunch lady hairnet too. So let me just tell you the story of the high 5 habit, because then it'll make sense for everybody around the hairnet on the brain. So I did not intend to write this book. Let's start there. After the success of the 5-second rule, I got all up in my head and thought, okay, I got to have a book that's like successful again. And It's got to be the 5 decisions. It's got to be the And I wrote literally 3 or 4 different books that were all horseshit. Really bad books. And that's how you usually figure out what's good, is by starting by doing something really bad. And so I find myself in the pandemic, and this is not a pandemic book. Everybody's got a story about quarantine. Everybody's life got completely turned upside down. There were tremendous blessings from the pandemic. Like for our family, for example, thankfully nobody died from it. And we got to spend time with our adult children that we will never get back again, period. But my business in the very beginning went into a free fall. I had been hosting a daytime talk show. We were filming at CBS Broadcast Center. It got canceled with 5 minutes notice when they found COVID. And so I was fired from my dream job. Let's just be honest about what that is.
I don't know if you know this, but...
Is this another one?
Your producer reached out. I was supposed to be your last guest on your final episode. Yeah.
So there's another connection, see?
Oh, all right, I'm done. I'm leaving. All right. Okay.
Something awesome's
as you were
happening.
saying,
Let's
continue.
call the signs, everybody.
Continue.
So then every single speech starts to cancel, of course. Then Houghton Mifflin, who was my publisher at the time, canceled my book contract. My fault, because I had not produced a manuscript in over a year, which meant I had to return money I had already spent. Then my kids come home from college, and like everybody else, everybody is in a free fall, emotionally, anxiety, panic stricken. The whole team goes virtual that I manage, and everybody's like mental health is going down the drain. And I start having flashbacks to 2008 when Chris and I nearly lost everything. And I found myself one morning. I walked into the bathroom. I'm standing there in my underwear. I am leaning against the bathroom sink. And this is a moment that I think everybody can relate to. I'm brushing my teeth, and I catch my reflection in the mirror. And I think, God, you look awful. You look exhausted. Your neck is saggy. One boob is hanging down lower than the other. Your gray hair is coming in. Woman, you are tired. And I felt tired. I felt the weight of responsibility and sadness on my shoulders. And then, of course, once you have one negative thought, it's like lint in a dryer. It starts collecting. And so then I think, oh my God, I got up late, and my Zoom call's in 8 minutes, and the dog's at my feet, and I hadn't walked the dog yet. And I just wanted to check out. I just wanted to go to the couch and lay down. I did not want to have to deal with the responsibilities of my life. I was so overwhelmed. And I know everybody can relate to this moment. And even though I am one of the most booked motivational speakers in the world, I couldn't think of a thing to say to myself. And so, as corny as it sounds, I literally found myself raising my hand, and I gave myself a high five in the mirror. Cheeseball city. But I'll tell you, something like flipped. I was kind of like, okay. I felt my shoulders. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Get back in the game, Mel. Let's go. That was it. That was it. The next morning, this is when the next weird thing happened. I woke up and I immediately thought about that moment in the mirror. And here's how I would describe it. You know how if you and I were going to meet for a cup of coffee, and, for me, if I'm about to walk in and see you, I'm getting excited because I'm about to see you. When I wake up that second morning, I'm actually thinking about that moment in the mirror and this idea of seeing and being with myself. Now, look, I'm 52 years old. I probably have spent the first 45 years of my life either criticizing the woman I saw in the mirror or ignoring her. So I get into the mirror, and there I'm with myself. And new research out of the University of Florida shows that if you have an intentional moment in the morning of reflection about how you're going to show up for the day, it changes your mood, your productivity, it changes your impact on people. And so I stood there with myself, and I really looked at myself, and I raised my hand again. Now here's where it starts to get crazy. I know you're a science guy, so let me just lay some science on you, because this is freaking bananas. First of all, it is impossible to high-five yourself and think, I suck. It's impossible. It's impossible to high-five yourself and think, today is going to be a shit day. Neurologically impossible, and let me tell you why. You have high-fived other people for your entire life. Tell me what a high five means when you give it to somebody or they give it to you.
Awesome. Good job. You're amazing. let's go.
Yep.
All
Keep
those
going.
things.
If somebody's attitude's going down, you give them a high five, it lifts them back up. Yeah. All of that messaging that is affiliated and associated with the physical movement of raising your hand. This is a field of study called neurobics. I didn't make that word up. This is about neuroplasticity and neuropathways and the aerobic movement of an arm being married together. All of that subconscious messaging is stored right here in your basal ganglia. From a lifetime of doing that. I believe you. I love you. We got this. I celebrate you. I see you. Keep going. Come on. Here we go. So when you raise your hand to your own reflection, it activates all that messaging and marries it with your own reflection. Is that not crazy? Silence is the critic and starts to reprogram the neuropathways in your mind. And because it is associated with physical movement, what we know based on research is the fastest way to create new neural pathways is an unexpected physical movement married with a thought pattern. Yeah. So that's just the beginning of this. So I did this for a couple weeks. I started to feel my mood lift. I started to feel myself feeling optimistic and positive. I had my high five attitude back on, like this moment's preparing me. Just stay with it, Mel. Keep your head up. You got this. You can face this. I know this is hard, but keep going, woman. And so I post a photo on my story, and within an hour, there were 100+ people that had high-fived themselves with their kids all over the world by themselves. And I thought, okay, there's something here. And so that's when I dug into the research. First, I talked to our audience, what were you feeling? And what they had to say was profound. And the second thing I did is I picked up the phone and started talking to some of the world's leading researchers in habits, in neuroscience, in brain, in behavior. And the motivational power of a high five is not only documented, it is irrefutable.
Let's talk about that, because there was one study that was done on school-age children.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. That one is what really got me.
Oh, I know, right? So you have 2 kids, right?
I have 3.
Oh, 3 kids. Yeah. Okay. How old are your kids?
2 still living with me.
Okay. So how old are your kids?
2 in there. My oldest son is actually turning 21.
Congratulations.
My youngest son's birthday is today.
Oh my gosh.
He's turning 10. And
That's
my
fantastic.
daughter is the oldest. So
fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, this works with all ages, but the study that you're talking about is super cool. So they wanted to know what's the best way to motivate somebody through a challenging problem or a challenging situation. So they divide kids into 3 groups. And they give them a very challenging problem to work on. And they use 3 forms of motivation. One is verbal praise in terms of praising a trait. We know this, the fixed mindset. Hey, you are so smart. You're doing a great job, right? That is the least motivating way to help somebody through a challenging problem. The second group got the growth mindset, which is to praise somebody verbally for their effort. Oh my gosh, I see you working so hard. I see your grit. I see you putting in the effort. Great job. That certainly works better than telling somebody that they're smart, because you anchor them down in something they control, which is the amount of effort they put in. The third group of kids working on a challenging problem got a simple high five from the researcher. No words, no nothing, just a high five. Those kids that got the high five, they outworked everybody else. They had a better attitude. They worked through more challenges. They 5x the whole thing. And the answer is why? Here's why. A high five communicates even more than I believe in you, we got this, keep going, I celebrate you, I love you. A high five validates your most profound, fundamental emotional needs. Every single human being on the planet has 3 emotional needs. You need to be seen, you need to feel heard, and you need to feel celebrated and accepted for the unique individual that you are. When you receive a high five, especially during a challenging moment, you feel seen. You also feel heard because you feel like that high five represents they get that I'm going down. And you feel celebrated. It is a shared moment of emotional affirmation. And so we have for our entire lives looked outside of ourselves for that. We chase likes, we chase validations. We think if we're dating or married to the right person, it means that we're lovable. The truth is, you got to learn how to give that to yourself. And I am here to tell you that if you create a habit in the morning, just habit stack it right with brushing your teeth, where you stand there, you be with yourself. You set an intention for how you're going to show up today. What game are you going to play? And then you seal that sucker with a high five. You are literally building in the habit of self-validation, self-support, self-respect, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-celebration. It is so freaking powerful. And I am so passionate about this, not only because I am standing on the research of people way smarter than me, but I am seeing the millions of followers that I have profoundly change their lives. A woman, for example, check this out. A woman, for example, who had dysmorphia for 20 years could not look at herself in the mirror. Just 5 days of doing this can now look at herself and grin because she's not seeing a body, she's seeing the human being. We received the most amazing testimonial from a woman who was in a domestic violence shelter for battered women. She wrote to us about how she has severe childhood trauma. She's just escaped this very violent relationship. She has nothing but herself and her 2 kids. And by looking in the mirror and setting an intention and seeing herself and being with herself and high-fiving herself, she said, I am realizing, at least I have me.
Yeah.
I can have my own back.
Yeah. I love this. It's the stories married with the science as well. You really speak my language. It's so amazing. That particular study, and it was published in Frontiers in Psychology, by the way, and we'll put the study for folks. It surprised me that the affirmative words weren't more impactful, but then it made sense immediately because in a sense you have to believe it.
Yes.
When we're talking about, so go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So what you're talking about, we're going to talk about 2 topics based on this question, okay? So you just said it's surprising that the affirmative words weren't more impactful. Well, here's why. Number 1, affirmations and mantras don't work unless you believe them. So if you hate the way you look, you cannot stand in front of a mirror and be like, I love myself, I love myself, I love it, because you don't yet. There are 2 reasons why the high five works, though. Because number 1, you don't have to think or say anything because the messaging's already programmed here with the physical movement. And then there's a second reason, and this was just validated by Dr. Daniel Amen, who I know you know. Yeah. And so, the world's leading brain expert with 65,000 brain scans. So I just met with him about the high five habit. And here are 2 really killer things about the high five habit and why it's so impactful to high five yourself. So this motion and this motion, the high five, we've been like raising our arms in celebration. What do you do when you score a touchdown? Wah! What do you do when you cross a finish line? Ah! What do you do when the band that you love comes out? Ah! What do you do when you see somebody you love? Give me a hug, right? When you high five somebody, you're raising your arm. The raised hand, physical movement, is wired into your nervous system as a celebratory, wah! Kind of thing. And so it gives you this jolt of energy when you do it, whether you feel energized or not. And more importantly, it also gives you a dopamine drip. And so in addition to the subconscious messaging, the physical movement impacts your nervous system. It also gives you a little dopamine drip, which boosts your confidence and your mood immediately, which makes you more receptive to feeling that positive messaging. What the hell? I mean, this one movement has so much that's just, you can unpack with it.
Yeah. So there's this obviously a strong neuroassociation. We've done this throughout our lives so often. And then marrying that with this, again, the science on this is nuts. I want to come back to this in a second, but I want to reiterate a point here, which is in our culture. So you mentioned some things that we require for emotional development. We need to feel seen. We need to feel acknowledged. We need to feel like we matter. Mm-hmm. And so, but that self-acknowledgement or even self-celebration, in our culture, we are oftentimes taught to not do those
Always.
things.
Not even oftentimes.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think this is conditioned into human development. So in our family systems, part of the problem with being in the business that we're in and understanding the science of things is every single day I do something and I think, oh my God, that's going to be 3 years of therapy for my kid. They're literally getting the messaging that there's something wrong with you, or you better do it this way or I'm not going to like you. And so you get taught to fit in and fold into whatever system you're in. And so you start suppressing your need to be seen and to express yourself in order to get along, in order to fit in order to not piss off mom or dad, in order to receive the love and attention that you need. And so I feel like, you go through this mode in life where you're born perfect, whole, and complete, beautifully designed to become an adult, right? To grow. I mean, nobody has to be told how to crawl. It's in your DNA to watch what's going on around you and to just keep going and trying and going and trying until you figure it out. Every baby, when they can crawl towards a mirror, they don't look in the mirror and are like, ugh, look at those fat thighs. They literally like put their hands up on it and like they love their reflection. It is encoded in your being to love and celebrate yourself. But what happens is you start getting told, no, 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 no. You get told to shut up, to sit down, to be quiet, to, speak, to be seen and not heard. You start to see who's in, who's out. You start to long to belong. And so then all of a sudden you are suppressing your natural desire to express yourself and to be yourself in order to fit in with everybody else. And it's normal. We all do it. We all betray ourselves this way. And then as you become an adult, you start to feel like, I feel disconnected to myself. I feel like, there's something missing here. And what's missing is that deep connection with yourself. And what I'm here to say is when you start to learn how to fulfill your own emotional needs, to see yourself, to celebrate yourself, to support yourself, no matter what. Like a lot of people have tremendous amount of regrets. So one of the things that happens when people first try this high five habit, and by the way, that's just one of like dozens of tools in this book that are all about habits of support and celebration, all about bringing you from low point to a higher point, all about optimism, all about confidence and courage. But when you first try this first habit, you stand in front of the mirror, you're going to do one or two things. You're either going to get it immediately and feel the boost and be like, I cannot believe I've robbed myself of this forever. Like, I am never going to not do this. Or you feel massive resistance. And this is the part that's important to unpack. If you feel the resistance to celebrating yourself, this is where your low self-esteem, your regrets, your worthlessness lives. This is where you judge yourself. Because most people, what we found is they resist doing it because they have a story in their head that they don't deserve it. I have done so many things in my past, or I have survived so much trauma in my past, I am worthless, or I am unlovable, or the other side of this is, but I haven't done anything worthy of celebration. And so here's the sad fucking part. If you can't support, celebrate, and empower yourself because you have survived all those things, and because you are standing here still breathing and still trying to do better, you will never change your life. Because you need support, celebration, and empowerment to be able to make the changes, to be able to face the challenges. You see, supporting, celebrating, and cheering for yourself, it doesn't remove the trauma. It doesn't remove the abuse. It doesn't remove the microaggressions and the bias in this world and the violence and the poverty. What it changes is you. It changes your ability to face these things, your ability to take the actions that move the needle on these things. That's why it's powerful.
Yeah. This is remarkable. To dig deeper into the science a little bit, where we associate this action, this is so remarkable. You're amazing. So where we associate this most often, if we're thinking about a high five, is with sports, for example. And you mentioned that you actually talk about some research on NBA players.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, this is super cool. This is a study that's really interesting where they wondered what difference does it make if a team has a culture of back pats, high fives, and fist bumps, and sort of like this sort of physical touch. This, what's it called? You probably know better. The this is where my dyslexia comes on full display. I already learned neuroassociation from you. I'm like, thank you very much. I'm stealing that. But the physical touch, does that have a difference in a winning team? And what they found is if you go to, in this particular study, if you looked at the teams that made it to the championship rounds in the NBA, you could trace it all the way back to the preseason. They had the most fist bumps, back pats, and high fives of anybody in the league. And the teams that were doing the worst had the least. Why does it matter? I'll tell you why. When you fist bump somebody, you're in it together. You're in partnership. You're building trust. I got you. I got your back. When you don't do that, every player's out for themselves. And so here's the thing that I want you to understand. You can build that partnership with yourself. Like, the whole world is trying to tell you got to put yourself first. You got to take care of yourself. You got to be kind to yourself. You got to have your own back. Nobody knows how the to do it. I'm sitting here telling you, you can practice these small habits of standing in front of a mirror, setting an intention, and being in partnership with yourself in creating and making that intention come true. Celebrate it with a high five and send yourself into the game of life with that kind of wind at your back, with that kind of partnership with yourself, knowing that no matter what happens today, at least you have your own back. And that is why this is powerful.
Yeah. So it's kinesthetic.
Oh, kinesthetic. Thank you.
Touch.
Thank you. Yeah.
But what really blew me away was that scientists are asking these questions, and who thinks that let's study physical connection and touch within a team and their camaraderie in this domain and track what happens.
It's true.
And this is what's exciting about being alive today.
Yeah.
We can ask these questions, and there's so many more aspects of our reality. We haven't even scratched the surface. We haven't even reached that 0.5% of the stuff that we can be testing and discovering. So it's really, really cool. But something that you've been repeating throughout is, this role of, childhood and development and parenting. And you also brought up something really remarkable, which is parenting ourselves in a sense, when throughout our lives, we're kind of forced to do things, right? Mm-hmm. And they're supposed to be for our good. And, in many instances they are. But once you lose that regulatory force or that guidance, for a lot of people in our culture, it's around 18. You leave the house, you go off to school, whatever the case might be. And you no longer have that force or that guidance hovering over you. And then you look at today, many people, even folks listening, and I know we've all found ourselves in it, is that lack of motivation to get up and to do the thing we're supposed to do. We don't have someone yelling at us.
Right.
And so essentially, it's parenting ourselves and creating the conditions to where we are doing the things that we need to do to be successful.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that some of us can be a pretty parent to ourselves, and also some of us can be an absent parent. Some of us can be a pretty good parent.
Right.
But I think for most of us, we're a parent who's trying.
Yes, that's true. So the concept of parenting yourself is this. When you're a kid, your parents force you to do the things you don't want to do. Get out of bed, make the bus, eat your vegetables, be nice, look the people in the eye, turn your homework in, don't talk back, all the things you need to do, right? And what is really interesting about becoming an adult is nobody tells you when you become an adult, now it's your job. Nobody is coming to save your ass. Nobody is going to tell you to get out of bed. Nobody is going to do the work for you. Nobody's rescuing you. Nobody's discovering you. It's up to you. And here's the other piece that nobody tells you. You're never going to feel like it. By the time you're 18, you are already stuck in your ways. You're stuck in your story about yourself. You're stuck in the habits that you have, many of which you picked up by either witnessing what your caregivers were doing or reacting and trying to survive the situation that you were in with your caregivers. So you have a whole set of patterns that you're stuck with. Your brain is designed to repeat patterns. And so now you have a choice. You either live with the patterns that you have or you spot them and you frickin' break them and replace them. And this is why you're never going to feel like doing the things that you want to do. And you have to parent yourself because your brain will always default to its patterns. And so from this point forward, here's what you should assume. I will never feel like doing the shit I need to do, ever. So stop waiting to feel like it. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for inspiration to strike you in the ass and make you get off the couch and finally take the advice that you're giving and take care of your health. Stop waiting to feel like you're going to turn off Netflix and do the kind of evening routine cycle to make sure that you're going to get a great night's sleep. Stop. If you want an amazing life, you're going to have to work for it. If you want to change, you're going to have to break patterns. And the number one rule that is going to help you is to assume you are never going to feel like doing that stuff. So stop expecting it and push your freaking ass to do it. And you can use the 5-second rule, count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That'll help you break the pattern. In habit research, it's called a starting ritual that interrupts an old pattern and prompts your mind to focus on a new one. And then you move. That is the only way to change. Just like your parent was annoying. Get up. The bus is coming. I don't care. You're not getting up from this table until that plate is clean. You didn't feel like eating it, but you did. So that tells you something. You are capable. You just don't feel like it.
Let's go back to this neuroassociation.
Yes.
One of the important tenets, I've been really working to drive this into culture, this statement. The most powerful driving force of the human psyche is to stay congruent with the ideas that you carry about yourself and about the world around you.
Oh, we going to the RAS now?
All right. Yeah. That's the segue. You see it coming. You see it coming, the horizon.
I see it coming.
So with that said, our brains are wired. Our brains are fascinating. They're so powerful. They're unique, though. That's the thing I want people to understand, too. There's never been a human brain exactly like yours in our entire species history, and there never will be one. As a matter of fact, your brain in 5 minutes is going to be radically different from the one that you have.
That's right, because they're going to hear what we're about to talk about.
That's right. And so through this process of the brain laying down these connections and laying down more myelin and accelerating these patterns and everything firing, those things become, in a sense, very solid. And this is how we create our habits. Mm-hmm. And so when we stray from those things, that's when we experience discomfort.
Yes.
Or we try to do something that's not within our belief about ourselves. This is what gets us to draw back and to go back to what, even if we're not happy with something about ourselves or our lives, we're comfortable with it in a sense.
Right.
And so, but here's the thing, and this is why I brought up the parenting connection, is that no one is going to make you do this, but you get to do it yourself, which is you get to celebrate yourself. You get to create these new neuroassociations. No one said it's going to be easy, and I love this about your work too, but you have everything that you need to make it happen. And so the segue is into what's happening within our brain and starting to actually look for things to affirm the changes that we're wanting to make. So let's talk about that now.
Okay, so the RAS, picture like I think about, the hairnet on the brain. Okay, it's really a live network. The reticular activating system is a filter. That's what it is. And it has an enormous job. And the job of the RAS is to decide what information gets into your conscious brain and what information do we allow to kind of block out so that you're not consciously thinking about it. Now, the reason why you have this is because if you didn't have this filter, your head would explode off of your shoulders, literally. You are processing, it's like 34 days worth of cell phone data every single day in your brain, okay? You just can't handle it. And so there are only 4 things that your RAS allow into your conscious mind all the time. Only 4. It's the sound of your name, and we've all experienced that. You're walking somewhere in a crowd, and all of a sudden you're like, did somebody say Mel? That was your RAS, letting it in. The second thing is any threat to your safety. So one of the reasons why we go like this, if you hear a loud noise that's near you, is because your RAS let it in. There are loud noises all the time, but it blocks them out because it's not near you. The third thing is that your partner is interested in having sex with you or someone else. We've also experienced this where you're like, what are you looking at her for? Right? And then the fourth one, and this is where all of the money is, right here, everybody, is whatever you tell your brain is important to you. You see, your brain, and most people don't understand this. It took me 52 years to realize this. Your brain is designed to help you get what you want. Your brain will filter the world in real time and change what comes into your conscious mind based on what's important to you. And we have all experienced this phenomenon. If you have ever shopped for a car, you know what I'm talking about. The new Broncos are out right now, right? And so let's say that you wanted to get a new Bronco. And they've been, you've seen Broncos forever. But once you start thinking about it, like, oh, those are interesting. I think I want one of those things. Your mind's like, oh, it's called the Zeigarnik effect. It opens up a little checklist in your brain. It goes, oh, wait a minute. Her nervous system just lit up. She's all excited about this thing. Let's put this on the list. It's important. Let it in. And so one day you're driving down the road. You don't see a single Bronco. The next day, the new models aren't even out yet. But what do you see everywhere? You see a Bronco everywhere. You're like, where the hell did all these Broncos come from? They were always there. It's just that your mind now got the message from you that this shit was important to you. So it's like, let it in, let it in, let it in. The second that you're interested in a Porsche, you're not going to see Broncos anymore. You're going to see a Porsche. That is your mind trying so hard to just manage the world and change in real time. And so this also works in the negative, by the way.
Yeah.
So if you have forever thought that you are a bad person, you're a piece of shit, that's what you say to yourself. A lot of people say that. It's terrible. Maybe this is what your parents said to you. Maybe this is what some coach said to you. Maybe this is what you picked up from childhood because you were discriminated against or you were the victim of abuse. All kinds of stuff that you're not responsible for, by the way. But you absorbed that and you kept thinking about it. And so what's happening in your mind is that your mind literally is like, oh, well, Mel's thought this thing, I'm a bad person, for so long that she actually thinks is important. And so the littlest things, like you forget to go to the dentist. And then they call, did you miss your appointment? Your brain immediately lets it in and makes you think, see, I screwed everything up. I'm a bad person. I can't even get to the dentist. And so what I'm here to tell you is that just simply repeating, I'm a good person, I'm a good person, I'm a good person is not going to be enough. You got to start to do the high five habit. You also have to start to come up with what I call a meaningful mantra, which is something you can believe right now while you still think you're a bad person. I may be doing things I regret, but I'm trying to be better. You know, that kind of gets you a little bit out of the bad person. So now my brain's like, oh, okay, hold on. She's looking for reasons that she's trying to do better. Oh, I missed the dentist appointment. I didn't mean to. Just that little flip, like a little high five in your mind, little attitude adjustment that wipes away the, see, there I am again, screwing everything up to, oh, didn't mean to, trying to do better, doing a little better every day. And those things start to change the way you see yourself. Now, there's another exercise, another habit that I have, I call looking for hearts. This is going to sound so dumb, but please, this is so freaking cool. It's unbelievable. You won't try this stuff in terms of the big stuff. Like, it's hard to change what you think about yourself. Really hard. I mean, that stuff is wired into your nervous system. You look back, you see tons of evidence, but I am damaged. But I have done things that I regret. But I am a bad person. But I screwed up that relationship and I did this thing and I'm a up. And like all this garbage you say to yourself, it is like in your body. So you're going to have to get intentional and be like, I'm done living with this crap. And the imagery that I have is like, imagine it snows. When you get intentional with the high five habits, you can literally plow a new path in snow. That's what a neuropathway is. And I can show you that it's true if you play the heart rock game with me. I want you to, after listening to this, spend the rest of the day and just tell your mind, I really want to see a heart. Whether it's just a naturally occurring shaped heart, whether it's a rock on a path or a symbol in on the top of your coffee or a stain on the floor of the garage or a leaf on the ground. I want you to just be like, I got to find a heart today. And just be open to it. And all of a sudden you're going to find one. And then here's how you really like amp up your hairnet on your brain going, ooh, she really thinks this is important. Let's look for more hearts. I want you, when you see that heart, to go, oh, I found it. The universe, God, that was put there for me. That is cool. And when you kind of do that little like mood vibe through your nervous system, it is like the opposite of negative trauma. It's like a positive wave in your nervous system that makes your brain go, this shit's really important. And so now you'll start to see, once you play this game, you'll start to see it everywhere. And when you play this game with your RAS, look for hearts, and you start to see, whoa, wait a minute. My brain is showing me what I'm telling it I want to see. Oh, wait a minute, there's a Bronco. I don't even want one. And just because I heard Mel talking about it, now I'm seeing a Bronco. Whoa. Now you can get into the deeper thing of getting intentional about how you talk to yourself, intentional about not getting dragged down by guilt or insecurity or people pleasing or anxiety or fear or failure, or all that crap that takes your attitude low. I want you to stay in a high five attitude.
Let's run this experiment. Everybody listening, run the experiment. Suspend your disbelief. Mel and I, and collectively just all the countless people that we've worked with who've employed these very simple things. But when you start to lay that groundwork, when you see this happen, it changes you. Like,
yes.
I can think of the scenario, when this particular thing happened for me.
What was it? Tell me the story.
Oh, Mel, why you gotta have me tell the story?
Why?
All right, so I was wanting. This was a time when I was in the midst of really kind of stepping into my power, because I come from a very, complex, volatile, violent, just a tough environment.
Yeah.
And so there's one sort of aggression and assertiveness to kind of survive in that.
Yeah.
But then there's another flavor of that is kind and compassionate and peaceful. And so I'm trying to break and evolve in these things where I'm not letting that drive my life and instead be like a force for good in a sense. And so I was just kind of feeling out of sorts, and I had this song in my head. And it's a song, I didn't even know the name of the song, but I knew a couple of the lyrics and I knew the melody.
Tell me a lyric.
It was, well, I knew the name of the song after I looked it up, but it was Glycerine.
Okay.
And it's by Bush, if I remember correctly. I know it's Gwen Stefani's ex-husband. Like, I know like these random things, but I might not know things.
Okay.
All right. And so I don't know anything about the group. The song was just in my head. And it was in my head, we'll just say, for 24 hours.
And
right?
the more you repeat something in your head, the more your hair net in your brain literally moves around and is like, okay, this is important.
So I might have picked it up. Maybe it was a movie that I watched or something like that. But it was just it was this melody.
Yeah.
And so I'm driving and I'm just feeling like I need a sign. I need a sign that I'm on the right path here. And I turned on the radio, and the radio station that I listened to normally it was like staticky or something. It wasn't working.
Yeah.
So I pushed another button on my car and it
just
jumped. Random. And the song was playing. And this song at this point is probably like 10, 15 years old. It would not be playing right now. And it was playing. And I had to pull over the car and I just was like crying, like, how is that possible?
What did it mean to you? What did it mean to you?
For me at the time, it felt like the universe was listening.
Yes.
Yes. And I couldn't put it to words.
Yes.
And I felt like I was connected to something.
Yes.
And there was and I'm a very logical person, so I'm trying to, and I'm just like, I cannot rationalize this moment happening right now. It's for me.
Yes. And here's the thing. Whether you're a person of faith or not, there is nothing more incredible than knowing that you have the power within you to be your own beacon. And when you start to realize that your mind from your birth has intelligent design and is trying to help you see the signs, it's trying to help you change the narrative, and you start to connect the dots. Wow, I can see hearts. Whoa, there's that song. You realize just how powerful your future could be. Because when you start to believe that you can have your own back, that you know what's right for you, that you've got the courage to lean towards the things that feel right and to pull away from the things that no longer serve you, that's the secret to everything.
I want everybody to be able to get started, doing this work. And by the way, a little sidebar, in that kind of internal conflict, in the outer world, what was happening was I'm transitioning from a clinical practice, working in a gym at the same time, to like, I felt this bigger mission.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, you don't have to.
And I felt like there was just something more in store, and I had to open myself for it to happen, which is, again, being here, teaching teachers.
Yeah.
And helping to empower people in a different way that I didn't.
Well, that's actually how you could get started, everybody.
Yeah.
Because I think when you give yourself permission to hear that calling, there's something more. I'm feeling myself pull. I don't know what the hell it is. Most people jam it down because you're so busy saying, but you suck, but you're worthless, but you're this, but who's going to listen to you? The real thing that you could do is tomorrow morning when you stand in front of that bathroom mirror in your underwear and you think about an intention, start to tell your mind, I believe there's something more for me. I believe that there are signs that I'm meant to see. And today I'm going to be open to them. And I'm going to start by looking for a heart. And I'm going to believe that something amazing is coming in my life. And then you're going to raise your hand. And when you raise your hand and you high five your reflection, you will feel in your nervous system and your body a little boost in your mood. You'll feel a sense of relief. You'll feel your shoulders go back because you're saying, I believe it too. And I got you. Let's go do this.
And you got so much more in the book, but also
Yeah.
you've got so much as far as additional support
Oh,
and
yeah.
coaching and
Yep.
resources. So can you tell everybody
Yeah,
about that?
absolutely. So, obviously pick up the book if you can, but we're doing this free challenge because nothing's more empowering than being part of a community that's all celebrating themselves and each other and empowering each other. And so I've created a free challenge. It's called the High Five Challenge, where you are going to wake up with me, not in your bedroom, but wake up with me. I think my husband might have a problem with that, or, but
Or,
maybe not. We've just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. Maybe we need to mix things up. I'm not sure.
Little spice, little cinnamon.
Yes, I talk about jealousy in this book, but I'm not sure that I could handle that. I think my insecurities would come up if that were a thing. But anyway, High Five Challenge. Yeah. So for 5 days, you're going to join 5 million people who are waking themselves up with a high five in the mirror 5 mornings in a row. There are journal prompts. You get free access to this amazing app by Brendan Burchard called Growth Day. Huge community. It's all free because changing is hard enough. It's really fun when you do it with an awesome group of people. So just go. You've got the URL.
Go to themodelhealthshow.com/Mel, MEL. Themodelhealthshow.com/Mel. And also, you've got some great pre-order bonuses for the book.
Yeah. But we'll give you bonuses whether you buy the book when you pre-order or not. But the pre-order bonuses are amazing. But I'm sure people will listen to this way after. But the website for the book is high5habit.com. We're teaching a master class on the book. We're giving you access to Growth Day. You can be part of this amazing High Five Challenge, which will happen live October 4th through 8th. But if you're listening to this after this, we got you. I got you. It's going to be going on forever. And you can always be a part of that community, and it's all free. It's an email and a first name when you go to the URL that you just gave.
Well, Mel, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've absolutely loved every minute of this, even since you got to the studio. I appreciate you so much for being who you are. Like, you're just an incredible human being. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, your experience, the real stuff. Just really means a lot.
Thank you.
Awesome. Everybody, Mel Robbins.
High five, baby.
High five. Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here.
It's like my whole thing is there's always an answer. And I said, stop this. I said, there are people that have stage 4 cancer and they've turned it around. There are models of this. I'm going to go find them. I'll read every book. And so I got obsessed.